So if you don't have a pencil for some reason, make sure you're grabbing one. We're on page 11. We are finishing up 3-1. Today we're going to review with these few problems, and then we're going to move on to 3-2. So this was adding, and next we're doing subtracting, but when we're talking about integers, I feel like we're adding and subtracting everything, right? Because when we're adding and our signs are different, we're going to find the difference, right? That means we're going to subtract. If we're adding and our signs are the same, we're going to find the sum, which means we're going to add them up. So here on page 11, Roberta had 35 game tokens when she arrived at an arcade. She had 0 tokens when she left. So what is her change? How do you get from 35 to 0? Negative 35, good. Do you guys remember the new vocab that we heard about that? No. Additive inverse. It is the number that we add to it to make 0. So if this had been negative 35, we would have been adding 35. Kind of like a really big name for opposite, right? So additive inverse, that's new vocab, you gotta know it. Colin spent $34 on a new video game. How much money does he need to earn in order to have a net change of 0? So if he spent 34, he is down 34. So this is like a negative 34, right? This is because he spent that. So how much does he need to earn? 34, he's got to cover that charge, right? So I'm going to write 34 right here in the blank it gave me. $34 to leave a net change of 0, right? Do you see how these are additive inverses? Because they would add up to 0. When Evan was snorkeling this morning, his depth relative to sea level was negative 8 feet. Later, when he was parasailing, his height relative to sea level was 64 feet greater than when he was snorkeling. So if we are combining these two, we would say negative 8 plus 64, right? Because it's 64 feet greater. So we're adding them. Are my signs the same or different here? Different. So I'm finding the difference, right, Liam? So here, what is 64 minus 8? What is it, guys? 56. Good. My bigger number is positive, so my answer is positive. So if it's on my paper, should it be on yours? Yeah, just a reminder. The Wolves football team gained 12 yards on their first play. So that's a positive 12, right? Then they lost 4 yards. So we could just say minus 4, right? If they lost 4 yards. Or you could say plus a negative 4. Remember, that's the same thing. Whatever sign is in front of it is the sign of this number. So we could think of it as negative 4 or minus 4. Either way is the same. And then they gained 7 yards on their next play. So we have to just add these up. What's 12 minus 4? 8. And then what is 8 plus 7? 15 yards. And it's positive, right? Because they gained more than they lost. So that should be right. All right, so we are kind of moving on to 33-2. And this starts in our books on page 139. Page 139. All right, so we're going to look at subtracting integers. If you'll turn to page 139. Today, we are gonna have a bit of time for notes and a little bit of guided practice, and we'll do some Alex at the end of the hour. And then, tomorrow, we'll have some more independent practice. So these are things we've seen already in our packet. This is just introducing it to you in a different way in hopes that this reteaching will help you, right? So to subtract integers, we can use a horizontal or vertical number line. Remember, if we start at 4, so we went to the right 4, a positive 4, and then go back to the left 9, we see that we're left at -5, right? So the difference here is -5. Notice this 4 we can think of as a positive 4, and this 9 contains the sign in front of it. So Kendrick, is this 9 positive or negative? If it includes the sign in front of it, we're thinking of it like a negative number, right, Jason? Awesome. So here, if we have a positive 4 and a -9, our signs are different. So we're gonna find the difference. Is 9 minus 4 5? Yes. And our bigger number was negative, right? Our bigger absolute value anyway. So then they did the same thing here, but with a vertical number line. So they went up to 4 and then back down 9 to end up with -5 too. Okay. Do you see they're talking about the commutative property rule? It doesn't really work. However, if we think of this like 4 plus a -9, which is what I kind of want you to think of it as, then we could say -9 plus 4. That would work. But we could not say that this is the same as 9 minus 4, right? That wouldn't work. 7 minus 2 is not equal to 2 minus 7. This would be 5, and this would be a -5, right? So that wouldn't work. We don't want to do that. We might have to think 9 minus 4 because our signs are different, but it's not the same thing. All right, everybody with me on page 140? So here they're writing out what I was just telling you. We can think of P minus Q. We can think of whatever is in front of that number as a negative number. And like these are being added up. Okay? And so here, the same thing. They're using what we just did as an example. Okay, does that make sense? Yes, ma'am. Oh yeah, I would definitely move then. You can move back to this table, you can move in front of Jensen there, you can move across from yourself, wherever there's no glare. I'm so sorry. I know that sun from those windows up there sometimes get us. All right, so all that, and now all of a sudden we have a different example. Do you guys remember back from our notes here? Let's look. We're almost done with our packet. Do you know what that means? If you go to lunch? Quiz suit is what that means. I'm looking. All right. We have on page 5. Remember when I had 2 negatives? I had to change, right? I had to change before we could add them. So that's what we're going to do here. We have to change. They're starting with a number line. This one is a little tricky, I think. So it says start at 0. Let's just do what they say, see if it works. Start at 0, move right 5 units. Okay. Does that part make sense? Because it's +5. Now it says then move right 7 units. So we're moving right 7 units, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The reason we're moving to the right is because we're subtracting a negative, which is the same as adding the additive inverse. Oh my gosh. That was a long sentence, right? They just made that really complicated. So really, we're thinking 5, when it looks like this, we're thinking we have to change, which is the same as 5 plus 7, which is 12. I don't know why they made that really difficult. So add the inverse. So we're going to add, what's the opposite of negative 7? Positive 7. That's why we change. We're adding the opposite. So remember, another word for additive inverse is opposite. Subtract means to add the opposite. So find it here. We're going to take 11 and we're going to add the opposite of negative 15. What's the opposite of negative 15? Positive 15. So we're going to change before we do it, right? Now you can do this, right? What's 11 plus 15? 26. 6 1s, 2 10s. Okay? Remember this? We've done it before, so hopefully we're remembering some of that. Now, sometimes, even after we change, right? This becomes change here. What happens is we have same signs or different signs. I have a negative and a positive. Is that the same or different? Different. So remember, when I have different signs, I find the difference. So I'm really thinking 24 minus 17. What's 24 minus 17? Again, it's okay if you have to rewrite it out, right? If I borrow here and I have a 7. But our bigger number here is negative. So our answer is negative 7. So we're kind of doing what we did with adding, but sometimes there's one more step, because if we're subtracting, we have to change. So 39 minus a negative 24, remember we have to change. And you can do this right on here, but I wanted you to see that we're always going to do that when we have two negatives touching each other like that. Our signs are different, so we have to find the difference. Remember, we're thinking big minus little. Bigger number versus little number. When I say big and little, I'm talking absolute value, right? 9 minus 4 is 5. 3 minus 2 is 1. So I have 15, and then I'm deciding, is my bigger number positive or negative? The 39 absolute value is bigger, so it is negative. All right, we're gonna leave expressions alone right now. So we are gonna go ahead and hop to our packet. And I just want you to do a few to be sure these are solidified. So remember, this is page 12 in your packet. We're just continuing right on to 3-2. And 3-2 is the last thing. So this is more reinforcement of adding and subtracting integers. So your quiz on Monday is going to be over adding and subtracting integers. I think that way we have Thursday and Friday, and then we can review for a hot second before our quick quiz on Monday. Yeah. There's always retakes. Anywhere in this building, you can retake a quiz. We'll talk about that though when it comes to quiz time. We are not gonna go outside today again. Because we still have lots of Alex to be done. All right, so this is very straightforward. If you need to line it up, right? This is a normal subtraction problem. Here though, remember, you're thinking You're thinking of it in terms of addition. If I have the same signs, I'm finding the sum. If you need to rewrite it to see that, you can rewrite it as -2. Remember, subtraction is adding the opposite. The opposite of 7 is -7. Now your signs are the same. When your signs are the same, you find the sum, which means to add. What's 2 plus 7? 9. But in this case, they're both negative, so you're getting more negative. And then here you're going to change, right? You can do that. Yeah.
Number 2 positive 2 minus. I thought it was -2 minus.
So you can think of it as -2 minus 7, but if that minus is in front of a number, it's going to be connected to that number. So we have to start thinking in terms of, oh, that's a -7. And I'm combining a -2 with a -7. So if it's easier for you to write it out, right? You're going to keep change to addition, take the opposite, keep change opposite, but sometimes it's just easier to think you're combining them, right? If they're next to each other, we're gonna combine them. And if it has a negative in front of it, we're thinking that it's negative. So if our signs are the same, I'm gonna find the sum. But you can think of subtraction as adding the opposite. That's why we're thinking this way. This is adding the opposite, which is why you can rewrite it like this, because these two things are equivalent. To help you see that you're adding two negatives, so you get a bigger negative. All right. Have you all done number 3 already? This literally says 6 plus 1. I hope that's done. When we change here, it should be 9 plus what? Refer back to what we did for number 2 to do number 5, right? Refer back to number 4 to do number 6. Number 7 is just like number 1. Refer back to those. How did we do those? And then you have 2 more. So this one's pretty simple. If I have something and I take nothing away from it, I just have that something, right? This one, be careful here. This one is like number 5, which is like number 2. If I have negative and I'm going left, remember that subtraction means to go left. I'm getting more negative. So let's just go through there. I think we'll practice some more in the packet tomorrow, but just finish page 12. Once you get done with page 12, you can go back to be sure pages 1 through 12 are complete in your packet. And then you can get into Alex. Because remember, we got to get working on Alex, but you still have a good 20 minutes if I let you go early. You'll have like 25 if I let you go on time. All right, I'm coming around. I'll be coming around the mountain.